their efforts as well. We also give club awards, and those of you who have been here before know that, to our club members who have been key to our success as a club over the last year. And the first award that we usually hand out is called the Ken Barton Memorial Award. Ken Barton was a long-standing member of our club, and he, I believe, was the secretary-treasurer. Was that right? Okay. And had meetings at his house and did all kinds of stuff. We weren't doing an AmiWest at that point, so he didn't have a chance to be involved in that. But we do try to give this award to somebody every year who sort of steps forward and stands out in the club, which is difficult to do oftentimes because our members are pretty involved and are all talented people in their own right. So it's kind of hard to choose sometimes. This year, the Ken Barton Award for Outstanding Service to the Sacramento Amiga Computer Club for 2014 is presented to one of our most passionate SAC members. He's an expert in the information technology field, having worked for companies that were on the innovative, cutting edge in the fields of gaming and digital imaging. He firmly believes that members of a computer club should use their computers to communicate, promote our club, and gain what we can from the larger online world. He's always brainstorming new approaches to our club and wants to see SAC continue and thrive. He makes a point of promoting club meeting attendance by providing transportation when needed to other club members. He eagerly shares his Amiga knowledge and expertise with club members, going out of his way to document, upgrade information, and sources of hardware and software. He's a great classic Amiga fan and has made a living as a videographer with the NewTek Video Toaster Flyer for many years. And finally, he was part of the original organizing committee for the original AmiWest show in 1998 and all succeeding AmiWest shows over the past 16 years. Although he is not here to receive his award, the Ken Barton Award for 2014 Outstanding Service to SAC is presented to SAC member Michael Salcido. He was here this afternoon on the show floor helping a lot of people with their machines, and this is the plaque that he'll receive when we see him next, which I think may be soon. Another part of that original organizing committee for SAC in 1998 was John Zacharias, who was one of our club presidents. And as time went on, John unfortunately became ill and passed from our presence. But we thought that we needed a second award for the technical side of things. Now, although Michael does a lot with the technical side of things as well, we have presented for the past, 10 years, the John Zacharias Award for Outstanding Technical Assistance to SAC. And it's presented for 2014 to one of our most active and committed SAC members. He's a hardware guy from way back with a serious interest in maintaining good Amiga equipment in good condition. He has spent a lot of his own time, money, and effort promoting our club during the year and AmiWest as the time draws closer every year. He's a great classic Amiga fan. He's always respectful of those who aren't experts in his field, patiently explaining to those who don't understand so that they can understand the subject at hand. He has patiently helped troubleshoot perplexing hardware and software problems with expert knowledge derived from many years of experience with electronics in general and Amiga in particular. He has helped implement social media contact for AmiWest. He cannot stand to see an Amiga destined for the trash heap, and has traveled widely to rescue Amiga equipment from such a fate at his own expense as our manager of the infamous SAC Abyss. The John Zacharias Award for 2014 for Outstanding Technical Assistance in Matters Amiga is presented to SAC member Dan Klosko.
Thank you.
About it. You bet.
Oh, wonderful.
Oh, it
And to
is.
my family, thank you very much. What's up with all that?
Yeah, what's up with all this is right. Now, another thing we've started doing is recognizing our sponsors, because without them, obviously, this wouldn't happen. And not only for their financial assistance, but also for their encouragement during the year, and the really great attitudes that they all have toward us. So at this time, I'd like to present our sponsor awards in no particular order: certificates of appreciation and a medallion. First of all, presented to Stephen Sully of Hyperion Entertainment. You are welcome. Yeah. Second of all, presented to Trevor Dickinson, who shocked us all last year and continues to shock us with his presence and his electric personality. Trevor Dickinson of AEI Corporation, thank you so much for your support and encouragement. And like I said, in no particular order, because we have different things for different people here, but to Matthew Lehman of Amiga Kit and all of your support and encouragement for our club over the years. So we really appreciate your support, your encouragement. Without you, our cutting edge would not be there. And we really thank you for your help and assistance in putting the show on. And without you, the show would not go on. So we really appreciate that. We also have some guests here from far away, very far away, and I'd like to recognize those. Some people, one for the first time and another repeat visitor from down under, from Australia. And I'd like to have Tony Wyatt and his lovely wife and Epsilon, please stand, be recognized. And of course, although he's already been recognized, I'm sure he won't mind it again. Mr. Dickinson from New Zealand came a long way to be with us. So we appreciate your, this is kind of over the top. I'm not sure that I would do it, but I'm glad you did. And Matt Lehman, also from the UK, and Steve Soley from Canada. And let's see here, who did I miss? I know I'm missing somebody. Oh, Len Hagblad from Canada as well. And, oh yeah, well I was gonna get to him next. Yeah. We're gonna say different things about him. Anybody else here from a foreign country? Well, foreign to the U.S. Yeah. Okay. And we'd like to also express our thanks to the Friends of AmiWest for helping to, for actually financing the trip for Andy Broad to come over and be with us and to be our banquet speaker this evening. So without further ado, I'd like to invite Andy to come and do what he has in mind for us this evening. Get this. Yeah. It is.
It's there.
Yep, that's there.
It's quiet.
Okay.
Well,
Yeah.
That works.
is it staying on or going up and down? When Bill asked me to come and speak, I didn't really know what I was going to speak about, and then I thought, well, you all know me as a programmer and such like, but what I really am is a musician. But I've always been using my Amiga as part of my musical life, so I thought I'd play you some of my music and talk a little bit about how I've used the Amiga over the years in its different guises, working its way through to the modern day. Because a lot of people say you can't do anything with Amiga, but you can do loads, so I'll talk about that in a minute. And it's been really nice being over here. You've been a great bunch of people to be with. So this song is the way I start a lot of my gigs. And it's just a song about a good feeling in a new place. And about playing the blues, which is what I do. I hope this mic's going to pick up the guitar and stuff, but if it doesn't, then you have to be quiet. Well, now, hey there, people, got a good feeling about this place tonight. I said, now, hey there, people, got a feeling about this place tonight. Well, now, I've got a real good feeling, yeah, everything's gonna be alright. Yeah, I'm gonna play you some blues, mess with a little boogie too. Yeah, I'm gonna play you a little blues tonight, mess with some boogie too. Ain't no bad feeling, yeah, little rhythm and blues can't cure for you. Yeah, I'm gonna play you some blues, mess with that boogie too. Now I'm gonna play you a little blues, mess with that boogie too. Yeah, if I get in the right mood, I might play a little jazz, maybe some ragtime with you. Yeah, I'm gonna party, really have a ball. Yeah, I'm gonna party now. Hey, we're gonna have a ball. Well, now, 'cause there ain't no bad feeling, yeah, a little rhythm and blues can't cure. Cheers. Right. I got some notes, but I probably won't be able to read them probably without my glasses on. Been doing this for too long. Right, so I've been using Amiga since about 1990 when I lived in a shared house. Hadn't long become a professional musician, and I just quit working at Marconi Space as an engineer. And we had an A500, and we just used it for games. So that phase, I didn't really use it very much. Then I decided to make my first tape for selling at gigs and when I was out playing in the street, because I used to do that in those days. So the Amiga that in the house got used for just one simple thing, and that was to print off the song list. And then literally drew the cover by hand, painted it in by hand, stuck it all together and photocopied it. So it was a little start, but that was the first bit of desktop publishing I did on the Amiga, which literally bits of glue and printing and stuff like. So it's kind of you got to start somewhere. So that's the first of the three main areas that I've used the Amiga for over the years. Is desktop publishing, audio production, and publicity. And I'll just talk a bit more about the DTP to start with. I've built it up gradually over time, starting off not long after the A500 that had got an Amiga 1200, and programs like WordWorth and such like, access to slightly better quality printer. So the next few cassette tapes that I made, because we're talking back in the 80s, early 90s, each time I managed to improve the quality by finding better techniques and better ways of using the resources I had. I didn't have any other computers, so the Amiga was all I had, which I didn't feel hard done by that, but I mean, you don't have quite the same resources as perhaps, although in that era I think the Amiga was on a par with everything else, really. But I didn't necessarily have the most expensive bits of equipment. So it gradually went from just printing the song list and then literally cutting and pasting together a proof to get photocopied in and then included in as a cover or then sent to printers, moving up to printing out on a well, you know, remember those printers where you had a coloured strip of plastic and the colour came off, leaving, I can't remember what it was. Thermal transfer, that's the one, yeah. So yeah, exactly, that's exactly the one, yeah. Produced a tape cover of that, which then got colour photocopied, because again, we're getting posher now. So just building up, and just trying to make the most of the resources I had at the time. And a little bit later on, and then scroll on to the first CD. Well, this time I've got an HP 500 color printer. So we can actually print something that looks like a CD cover now. So now I'm using image effects and WordWorth, and I've had to borrow some PC user's scanner to get my photographs scanned in, but I produced a CD cover that looks fairly good, and I print them off one at a time, because we got to an era where I can't afford mass production of CDs, but I can just about afford to buy a CD burner and burn individual CDs and produce acceptable CD covers. And I think just about could do that then when you buying Turbo Print to get a decent quality print. And again, it's making the most of the resources, which you have to do as a musician when over the years you don't get a lot of money from doing this stuff. It's worse than being a programmer, to be honest. And, so I'm losing my thread. So yeah, built up. So now I'm printing them on things. And the next step up, really, after that was to get better and better quality printers. I got an 85C, 15C, and got more memory in the A1200, so I'm still working with WordWorth, I'm still working with image effects, just to put together home printed CD covers. And then I moved, where did I start printing them out more bulk first? So working with those materials works well, and then So I move on another little while longer, and I've got the A1 XE, and I can really start doing image photographs that are big now, because I've got more memory. And the printing covers come up a bit more, and then I start producing. The next phase is to start, is to work towards, not these ones, but these are examples, but they are also for sale. Because being a musician, you never miss a sales opportunity. This is the next phase, which I've been working on using for quite a while, which is printing it as high quality as I can on the. Oh no, it's not. Sorry, it's not. It's done all on the computer and saved to PDF now. And then I take it down to the photocopiers and get it photocopied on really good quality laser printing. That was my last solo one in France, but this is a short run, so I do that for the short run. But now you can produce. This is the proper one, the most recent proper one. I'm really working quite hard to. A lot of this is done in Sketchblock, my own program, and we're still with Word. We have to do the text. And the thing with this one now is I'm really working quite hard to get the most out of the resources and printing to PostScript, scaling things up, and working at very high deep dots per inches. And trying to think, you kind of getting the most. I'm trying to imagine what I'm trying to say now. It's getting more and more. It's complicated to produce what the printers want, but all it is really is a big image. Photoshop, you put loads of layers in and spin things around. But I had to create text I wanted upside down on this image in WordWorth, save it as a PostScript file, render it with GhostScript, import it into Sketchblock, and then flip it over. And then curse when I found a typo, and anybody who's communicated with me on IRC knows I make a lot of those. But in fact, I make so many they read my words backwards now and get confused they get worried when I type straight. But the end result, I think, you can pass that around and look at it if you like, but I think it's a really good quality piece of thing, and it's done just on the Amiga, and. I think I think a lot of people make a big deal of what you can't do on the Amiga, and that's what I'm trying to get to. I think is if you're interested in Amiga and you want to do something with it, you can work around things, you can play with things. You don't actually have to use the most recent CAD app and desktop app to produce something on a Mac, which costs 10 times as much. There are ways to do things if you think about it, and the process of thinking about how to do it is quite enjoyable if you're a bit of a geek like me. But all this time through it, I don't want the quality to suffer. So I will use other computers, like I've got a Linux laptop and such like as well. So there's certain bits, like on this one, the font work wouldn't quite kern properly on the Amiga, so I had to do it in GIMP and then import that in. So I'll use little bits from other machines and then bring it in, and the Amiga is the central workstation, and which is most of the time has been my SAM, but now it's the X1000 as well. It's like a central point where all my resources come into, and I find it the most comfortable area to work with, so that's why I work on there. I put up with some of the limitations because I find it gives you also inspiration. Working around the limitations can produce interesting designs sometimes. So that's and the other one I got to show, stroke sell, is this one was also produced entirely on the Amiga with the artwork was done in Sketchblock, and this logo was done in Blender, and then basically that was gone off to a proper printers as well. Again, the quality's gone right up now. I'm really proud of the last couple in terms of the quality of the artwork. But the first one I do, I'll come back to a song now. The first decent quality cassette that I made in terms of the printing quality was called Postcard Blues, and this one was the title track of that. That one's now sold out, unfortunately. I got a postcard this morning, said my baby, she just left this town. Yeah, I got a postcard this morning, well, I said my baby, she just walked this town. But I ain't got no address. Hey, hey, yeah, you know that she was Texas bound. Bluebird, bluebird, now can you wait my letter for me? Well, well, bluebird, bluebird, hey, can you take my letter for me? Well, now I ain't got no address. Where in the world now can my baby be? Well, now, baby, please come on home. Oh, you know it's quiet down here since you gone. Yeah, now, baby, please come on home. Well, you know it's quiet down here since you gone. But I ain't got no address there. Where in the world has my baby gone? baby, please come on home. Oh, you know it's quiet round here since you gone. Well, now, baby, please come on home. Oh, you know it's quiet round here since you gone. Well, now I ain't got no dress there. Where in the world now has my baby gone? Thank you very much. Right, the next aspect is the audio. I don't really think the Amiga really helped me much in music-wise on the audio until the point where I started doing my own CDs. The A1200 I had didn't have any recording, and even then, the Amiga recording only really had 8-bit, which just doesn't cut it for music at that point in time, anyway. So I was recording in studios, and then the early recordings I received on DAT, so I was basically on digital audio tape, so I had to let the studio edit the final product for me and then mass produce it. Once I got to the point where I could burn my own CDs, you can bring the samples home on a CD-ROM and you start editing them. So I used to do the basic chopping and tailing, chopping off the noises at either end with software like Samplitude Opus, is it called? I can't quite remember. Samplitude, maybe. Which is quite a neat little program, considering it was running on an A1200. Although you couldn't play it back at full quality, although you got 14-bit by that kind of strange Paula hack that where they put 2 channels in one. Still, you could listen to it well enough to know where the joins were and put a CD together in track and order. Once I got my XE, obviously then you've got proper recording options then, and recorded a jazz album with another guitar player, and we recorded it straight onto one of these CD recording things, which was absolutely horrible, to be honest. But it's the way my mate insisted on doing it. So in exchange for agreeing to record it on this horrible CD machine, I convinced him to go halves and halves with me with it on a copy of Audio Evolution. And obviously, because he hadn't got an Amiga, I got to keep it. So that was the first one I'm actually mixed on the Amiga, and because it was stereo, so that's dead easy. The challenge was though, because we recorded on this CD recorder, there's a lot of clipping on the other guitarists playing, not so much on mine. It's something to do with the way this difference in sound. Mine recorded within the slightly reduced bandwidth of this machine, but his clipped it quite a bit. So I ended up writing a bit of software to fix the clips and put back in. It worked because he had a very clean sound, so the very smooth waveform, and I just calculated the peaks that were missing, and in this bit of program, and kind of made a nice little. So it still had a bit of distortion in it because you can't make it perfectly reproduced, but it was an interesting bit in signal processing, one of my early programming efforts anyway. And but that was mixed in Audio Evolution and produced a really good quality CD code, which shame I haven't got one, because it was one of my better designs, I think. So that's another step along the road. Now later on, I start still recording in studios, and I still do to this day, because obviously they've got the best gear. And whilst Amiga recording software gets slagged off by certain elements on the forums, it can do quite a lot more than they give it credit for. It's still not the same as going into a proper studio. And also, when you go into a proper studio, you've got that I'm in the studio effect. Whereas when you're sat in your front room, well, you're sat in your front room, aren't you? It's just not the same, psychologically speaking. But now I can bring the stuff home and I can edit much more fine add extra reverb and stuff. And so the last few, this one, the Live in France one, I recorded on a mini disc while at the various gigs in my first tour of France. Brought that back, and now I had to do quite a hard job. I'm still in audio evolution because the recording was good, but the balances were a little bit odd. There was a bit too much on my stomp box. Because when I'm playing a proper gig, I've got a wooden stomp box to stamp on for the percussion. So I did quite a lot of careful mixing. I was really pleased with the end result because I think it sounds really good. So that's Audio Evolution is a really nice piece of software, and it's a real shame that it's not going to be upgraded in the Amiga terms on Davey Wensler's current plans, at least. So if anybody's got strong arms to twist his arm, but for Audio Evolution 3 has done, yeah, not for 4. Yeah, well, you have to want quite hard for that one. I took a look at the source code when he said that, and then I thought, oh well. I've lost my thread. Where did I get to? So that kind of recording. My current project, I'm now recording. I bought an 8-track USB hard drive. I'm recording it on my laptop because we can't do 8-track USB on the Amiga at the moment. We can't do 2-track USB on the Amiga at the moment, but I'm working on that with Lower later. So I'll be mixing that, much more complicated. It's going to be several track recording in Audio Evolution, and I'm going to get good results with that. So that's that aspect of it. And then the other aspect, I use Audio Evolution and AD Rec for songwriting and recording ideas, and for that it's really good. You don't need lots of channels. I've got a Teratech sound card, and I've got a really nice system now for getting my ideas down, because once it's recorded, you can remember it. And so I find it a very useful and comfortable environment for doing that kind of thing. And then the next sort of thing to do with audio is I use Blender now for editing videos, which gives me access to. I've now got a lot of videos on YouTube, and you can really get the publicity out there with that. And I think so. We've got good tools, which with a bit of effort you can do quite a lot with. And I think I don't use Track as much, but the news about Optimed could be quite interesting, because I know that a lot of people are, and I know one or two. I do occasionally use loops for practicing purposes, and I think that could be an interesting extra tool in that area. So that's the second of my third aspects that I've been using over the years, and I think you can get some good results with the Amiga on audio. You don't need all these flashing gizmy lights and things that the Mac has on Logic. I mean, Logic's got some great audio effects, but half the time all it's doing is playing flashing lights at you to make it think it's good. Really is. I mean, I've seen people complaining that their really fast Mac can't keep up, and I think, well, turn the bloody effects off and let it do the audio rather than the graphics. And whereas our software, it looks basic, but it's not the flashy effects that you want. It's the sound, and we can process at 32-bit. We can add reverb. HD Rec has got a really nice reverb plugin. Could do with some more better into techniques for combining the apps. Like Linux has got this great system called Jack, where you can just plug all the different apps in together. If we could get that on the Amiga, I would be ecstatic. But probably have to code it myself. So audio is the second area. So time for another song, I think, because I'm rambling on too much. I better change key as well before Brian notices that I only know one key. Well, I don't mind marrying, but I just can't settle down. Yeah, I don't mind marrying, but I just can't settle down. When I'm gonna move like a preacher around from town to town. Traveled on that Southern, traveled on that Alabama. Yeah, I traveled on that Southern, now traveled on that Alabama. When now the railroad cars don't catch me, travel on them both again. I'll be a sidetrack baby till your main line comes. Yeah, sidetrack baby till your main line comes. When I switch more trains than your main line ever done. Buy me a shotgun, long as I am tall. Oh, buy me a shotgun, long as I am tall. Yeah. I'm gonna shoot that woman dead, I'll see her jump and fall. I'll be a sidetrack baby till your main line come. Yeah, sidetrack baby till your main line come. And I'll do more switching than your main line ever done. Yeah, your little dog baby till your big dog come. Hey, your little dog baby till your big dog come. And I'll do more barking than your big dog ever done. While the rooster crows, baby, at the break of day. Yeah, the rooster crows, baby, at the break of day. Let the little dog know that the big dog's on his way. I'll be a side trip, baby, till your man line come. Yeah, side trip, baby, till your man line come. And I'll do more shooting than your man line ever done. Thank you. Okay, so the last area is publicity. In the modern era of being a musician or anything really, you've got to be able to interact with the world on the web. So obviously I use the Amiga for my web design because that's an easy use. All you need is a text editor. In fact, not having Dreamweaver on the Amiga is a positive advantage. And also poster building, which comes under the desktop publishing, of course. But I've got, with the extra memory you've got with a modern Amiga, you can get some pretty decent quality posters done now, and I've got some good designs. And I don't print them myself, although I could do, because you get a lot better by sticking it on a USB stick and walking down the road to the proper printer shop. But I find the tools I've got make that really easy to do these days. And then it's interacting on social media, and that is really erratic. Our web browsers, we've got some good ones like Timberwolf and OWB and Oddity and Odyssey. That's bad habits you get on going IRC talking to certain people. It's probably one of the most important websites you need these days is Facebook, and well, it isn't a big loss that it doesn't really work very well on Amiga. So I use that with Linux, and that's one of the other points I want to make, that the Amiga is a great machine, and it's nice to do as much as you can on it, but you don't have to do everything on it. If you use it I use it as my main tool because it's my most comfortable environment, but draw in other tools when I need it. So I've got a laptop running in parallel a lot of the time, and I'll bounce stuff backwards and forwards by FTP. If I want to edit a video that I need done quickly, then I'll use Blender on the laptop because it goes a bit faster, like 10 times faster even. But I won't do anything on GIMP on the laptop because Sketchblock is much more comfortable now, and in fact, it's faster on my SAM than GIMP is on my supposedly 10 times faster laptop. And I'm not bragging about my coding skills there. I think that's down to GIMP being bloated and slow. So I think I use it a lot for publicity and stuff, but I think that's the weakest area. I think better web browser tools is something we could do with, but it doesn't matter because I've got a Linux laptop, and I'm not one of these fanatics must do everything on the Amiga type people, of which there are some, and I think it's not the end of the world to me that we haven't got a word processor that can do Word docs, because when I word process, I want to create documents. Some people need to read Word docs, but everybody's got different needs and usage. So I'm losing the thread a bit again, but what I really want to say at the end of this little talk is that the Amiga is a great tool for supporting whatever you want to do. If you use the difficulties as inspiration, find different ways of doing things, you can come up with more interesting designs sometime, like any kind of artistic or creative mood, and just make the best of your Amiga, because I think it's worth every penny of the deal, which is going to be the title track on my next album, which is back to the advertising. But I thought that was a fairly good link to finish on. So I'll play you one more song, and then thanks very much. Thanks very much for bringing me over, and I've had a good weekend so far. I'm looking forward to tomorrow. Is this working? Can you actually hear it? Oh, yeah. Yeah, that's good, good. Well, when I first met you, baby, we had a ball next time we met. Wasn't so sure, but I want you to know everything I will do. Why now you go with me, babe, I'll give you every penny of the deal. Can't offer you the world, 'cause I ain't got the world to give. All I can give you, baby, now is the way that I live. I want you to know all my feelings, they're real. And if you go with me, babe, I'll give you every penny of the deal. Why now you looked at me, baby, fill me with a fire. Looking away now, don't want to do with all my desire. I want you to know, hey, my feelings, they're real. And now if you go with me, babe, I'll give you every penny of the deal.
look, tell me, baby, fill me with a fire. You're looking away now, don't know what to do with all my desire. I want you to know, hey, my feelings, they're real. And now you go with me, babe, I'll give you every penny of the deal. Go with me, babe, we'll make a real strong team. Stick with me, make reality from my dream. I want you to know, hey, my feelings, they're real. When I go with me, babe, I'll give you every penny of the deal. Yeah, now go with me, babe, we'll make a real strong team. Stick with me, make reality from this dream. I want you to know, hey, my feelings, they're real. And if you go with me, babe, I'll give you. I say, go with me, babe, I'll give you. When I go with me, babe, I'll give you every penny of the deal.
Thank you very much. And also, thanks to Brian for getting hold of this guitar for me, because I couldn't have done this part of the weekend without it. Thank you. I wasn't going to bring mine over on the plane. Thanks very much.
You're welcome. Another hand for Andy Broad. I don't know how many more musicians we have in the house, but it's kind of unusual to get a musician to talk about his work, because usually you just do it. You don't talk about it.
No, you don't. No.
And so I really appreciate the role the Amiga plays in bringing all this to life, which is, I think, what is the essence of what you're saying here.
Yeah, yeah.
And I you know, in some of the things that I do, I published books on my Amiga. You know, using Final Writer, and I exported to a PostScript file, and my printer said, "Where'd you get this?" I said, "I did it." He said, "What?" He said, "No, where'd you really get it?" And I said, "I told him I did it, because it was all the right fonts, it was all the right pages, it was all the right formats, it was everything." So they printed the book, and they said, "Yeah, wow, you available?" I said, "Sure, send me some contracts." Didn't ever did, but it was still very easy to do, and much easier to do than other programs that I had looked at on other machines. This evening we also have, in addition to Andy, another guest, and I would like to ask Trevor Dickinson to turn that mic on there and introduce our other guest. Push the button until it turns green. Yeah, there you go. And hopefully it's on. Correct.
Yeah, okay. Hello, hello. It's on.
Is the mute off, Bill?
Hello, Bill. Hello. Okay, right. I love Amiga shows. You never know who's going to turn up. Right? I saw this guy today with a lovely lady with him. I actually saw the lady first. But then I saw this football top, Chelsea, and I thought, Chelsea. But then I saw Amiga, and I thought, oh yeah, Chelsea sponsored Amiga. That's pretty good, pretty cool. So it was after I'd done my talk, and he kind of wandered up to me, and I thought, Chelsea, Amiga. And I said, oh yeah, Chelsea, Amiga. And he said, yeah, I used to work for Commodore. Oh, that's very interesting. Yeah, okay. I used to be the MD of Commodore UK. In fact, I was the MD of Commodore UK when we tried to buy Commodore after Commodore went bust. And I was the MD until 1996 when Commodore UK disappeared. What probably a lot of Americans don't know, is that Commodore UK was actually Commodore UK Africa and Middle East, and was the most profitable division of Commodore ever. And the Commodore UK and Europe group was the second largest PC manufacturer in Europe. Now, well, I won't hold that against them, but the second largest PC manufacturer. So we have Colin Proudfoots, the former managing director of Commodore UK, and his lovely wife, Annika, wandered in, and we thought, we've got to get him to tell us some of the stories in the war chest. He's got some really nice stories about Mehdi Ali. He really liked him, respected him. And he really does know the dirt. Now, obviously, some things he can't say on camera, and so he's willing to give us some of his time, his experience, and tell us about Commodore when it was all really happening and going down. So, without any further, I'm going to pass it on to Colin. Colin.
Thank you all for the very warm welcome we've had today. I feel somewhat of an imposter in the Amiga community because I'm not really a technical person. I just found myself in Commodore at a very interesting time. But I think for me the strength of the brand was encapsulated by one incident I had a Friday evening sitting at my desk at Commodore at 4:30. My phone rang and my support manager said, "I've got a call here, I think you want to take it." So 4:30 on Friday, it's a bit late, but okay. So pick the phone up, and there's nice ladies on the other end. She says, "I'm from Make-A-Wish Foundation. Do you know what that is?" I said, "I think so, you do things for sick kids." She said, "Yeah, we have a kid whose wish it is, lifetime wish, to have an Amiga with a game pack." So I go, "Okay, we can do that. It's late now, we can probably get it to you Monday afternoon." She said, "I don't think he's going to make it to Monday." We got in the machine that night. Amiga has that power as a brand, as a movement, and it's great for me to see that 20 years later there is still the fanaticism around what Amiga was and what Amiga can be. Now some business stories. So I'm wearing my Chelsea Cup final shirt.
Right on.
They lost.
They lost, but they got to the Cup final. Now, one of the things that I don't know whether you know about shirt sponsors is the better the team does, the more money you pay them as part of the contract. So for Chelsea getting to the Cup final, that's $700,000. If Chelsea wins the Cup final, that's $1.2 million. If they win the Premiership, that's $2 million on top of the base sponsorship. So of course, being responsible business people, you have to insure against that risk. So you go to Lloyd's of London, you find the brokers that deal in this, and you say, how much to insure against Chelsea winning all these various competitions and finishing whatever place based on the contract you have with Chelsea. And they come up and they say, well, they did quite well last year and we had to pay you out, so this year the premium is $200,000 to insure against Chelsea doing well. There's an alternative, because in the UK, sports betting is legal. So you go to the sports shops and you look at the odds of Chelsea doing all the things you have to insure against. And you do the calculation. And you work out that based on the current odds, because Chelsea's just lost a key player, it's actually $50,000 cheaper to place the bet than it is to buy the insurance. However, there's a snag, because you can't just go into the betting shop and say, here's $150,000, I'd like to bet on Chelsea, please. Because they won't take the bet, and they change the odds. So you have to hire a team of people, and there are these specialists in the UK, 50 guys who simultaneously, at the same time, each place a $4,000 bet on Chelsea. And on the appointed day, you watch the odds, And within 2 minutes of them placing the bet, the odds have changed completely, and Chelsea has gone from 8-1 to win the cup to 2-1 to win the cup. Now, the moral of the story is, if you do sports betting and you see the odds shift, that's not because people are finding out about it, the team, it's because the sponsors are betting against them winning. So, I met Mehdi Ali early one morning. I got a phone call from a friend who worked for Commodore and said, I need somebody to backfill me in Germany because I'm moving to the UK. Can you meet Mehdi 7 o'clock tomorrow morning at Heathrow Airport? So I said, sure. I show up, we sit down and chat, he asks me what I've done, and we talk about that. And he says, well, really that's irrelevant. Andrew works for me and he's recommended you. And he knows if you don't work out, he gets fired. We okay with that? Be in Frankfurt, 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. And that was one of Mehdi's management styles. He would travel around the world and hold meetings. And all his managers, all the GMs of all the Commodore countries that he was interested in talking about had to show up at the nominated place at 8 o'clock in the morning. And you would sit and wait, pre-internet, pre-phones, you sit there, we didn't have connectivity, no Citrix in those days, sit and wait for your turn on the agenda. And my record was the day we had to fly to Amsterdam, and we waited to get in the room. There was David Pleasance and myself. We were there at 8. At midnight, Mehdi said, don't worry, I'm fixing dinner. I've called the restaurant and they're staying open. We got into the meeting room at 2:30 a.m. 10 minutes, 3 o'clock, we all went to the restaurant. We went straight from the restaurant back to the airport and flew home. So that was the management style. I think the worst case of that was when the guys were flown in from Australia into Europe, 10-minute meeting, back to the airport, back to Australia. Quick round trip, exactly. Now, Mehdi used to hold a bunch of the meetings in the UK. And in the UK, he would come into the UK, land at Heathrow Airport, have a chauffeur-driven car. The car had a phone, and he would be on the phone 16 hours a day, and the car would wait wherever he was overnight. We would pick up the bill in the UK and rebill the US, because it was a parent company cost. And it used to cost about $6,000 a day. So we calculated that if we provided the car and the phone, because we get a regular phone with international dialing, we could save a bunch of money. So I said to Mehdi, how about if I provide you the car and the phone, and I will really bill you half of what you're paying currently for your trips to the UK? He said yes. So in the UK, we had a car and a driver available to us 28 days of the month when Mehdi wasn't there, plus the phone. And save the company money. So I was asked about Wang, because in the UK I was an ex-Wang employee, so I have to confess to being guilty of bringing Wang in to do the maintenance of the UK machines. So we signed a contract with them to provide maintenance in July. And I told the Wang guys, you have 6 months to be ready. They said, what do you mean? Christmas is coming. Yeah, and that we're going to sell 400,000 Amigas in the UK this Christmas. If we're lucky, we'll only have a 5% failure rate. That's 8,000 machines. Christmas this year is on Thursday. In the UK, Christmas holidays are 2 days, so that'll be Thursday and Friday. You then have Saturday and Sunday. So on Monday, you're going to have 8,000 really angry parents calling you because their kid's Christmas present didn't work. Because as much as we try and tell people, nobody tests it before they wrap it, right? Who tests the Christmas present before you wrap it up? No. They don't do that. No. Come Christmas, Monday morning, 8 o'clock, bated breath, our switchboard starts lighting up at 8:30. I call Wang at 8:45 and say, you have a problem. The guy in the other says, what? I said, check your switchboards, you have a problem. At 9 o'clock, the Wang data network went down because it melted with all the traffic because people were calling directory inquiries to find out which Wang office they could get to get there. There were no callbacks. So the call volume went off the charts. So I went into Wang Monday afternoon and said, what are you going to do? What's the plan? We don't have one. So I gave you 6 months, guys, 6 months to get ready. What happened? So I said, here's what we're going to do. I'll give you 10,000 machines. Stop trying to fix anything. Just swap them out as fast as you can. 20 a day. Next day, said, how's it going? Said, well, the call volume's coming down a little bit, but we've got all these legal letters flying in through the door. I don't understand it. I said, guys, about 0.5% of the population in the UK are lawyers. That means you have 800 pissed off lawyers writing you letters. But I'll give you some advice because we've been through this before. Don't worry about the lawyers. They said, what? Why not? I said, the TV journalists are much worse. We cancelled the contract as soon as we could. And actually, ICL did a fantastic job because they put in a voice response system that went through all the key things. Did you plug it in? Did you turn it on? And what we used to do in technical support was when we got the parents who clearly didn't know what they were doing, we'd say, we need to talk to the user. And they go, but he's 8. That's fine, just put him on the phone. And it worked every time. Okay. I was also asked about how the UK stayed afloat longer than Commodore International and some of the stuff that was going on there. So in the UK, they have particular bankruptcy laws. And what they say is that if you are director of a company that is trading insolvency, in other words, there is a good chance your company is going to go bust and you know that, and you keep trading, you are personally liable to the creditors. So I was personally liable to the creditors in the UK. So I had my bankruptcy lawyer, and before anything happened, I said, can I do this? Can I do this? Can I do this? Whatever it was. And in 1993, Commodore contracted with SCI to manufacture Amigas. They reneged on payments. At the end of 93, they owed SCI $20 million of back pay. So Mehdi Ali convinced SCI in 1994 to make Amigas, and the plan was that the Amigas would be shipped to the UK, we would sell them, and for every Amiga we sold, we'd pay SCI the price of the Amiga and $50,000 off the debt. $400,000 a machine, they'd make their $20 million back. So I get a copy of this agreement on my desk in April, send it to my bankruptcy lawyer and saying, what do we do? And he looked at it for a week or so, came back and said, don't worry about it. I said, well, what do you mean don't worry about it? He said, this is an agreement between Commodore International and SCI. Commodore UK is not mentioned in this agreement, therefore you're not subject to its terms. I said, you're absolutely sure? He said, yeah. I go, okay. So Christmas season happens, we get the machines in from SCI, we sell the machines, and we send SCI the money as required, because we bought the machines, Commodore UK bought the machines from Commodore Switzerland, who bought them from Commodore Hong Kong, who bought them from Commodore International, who bought them from Commodore Philippines, who actually made them. So as long as I'm paying Commodore Switzerland, I'm good, because I owe the money because we have the machines. And Commodore Switzerland, or Mehdi, tells me where to spend the money. So I send the first lot to SCI. Commodore gets in more trouble, they said, send the money to New York. Well, you want me to send the money to New York? I'm paying down my intercompany account. I'm fine. I ship the money to New York. When I've paid my account down to zero, I don't owe anybody any money. If I pay any more money out, I get to pay it back personally. So I'm not about to do that. So I call SCI and say, I'm sorry you're not getting any more money. Now, the nice people at SCI said, you will never work in this industry again, we'll see to it. And I thought they were going to say they were going to send somebody down to break your legs, but they didn't go that far. So then the next Sunday I get a call from Medi and the president of SCI saying, you have to send them money. You have to send the money to SCI. And I go, I can't. Why not? It's not legal. Well, make it legal, says Medi. Said, I would do that if I can. My ex-solicitor told me it's not. If you find somebody who can convince me it is, fine, I'll send the money. And you can fire me. I'm happy with that. Get somebody else to be the scapegoat. That's fine, but didn't happen. So the upshot of that is SCI sued Commodore International, Commodore UK, and me for the $8 million they were owed. So we turn up in July in the High Court on the Strand, the Old Bailey you've seen on TV. The barristers are wearing their gowns and their wigs, because in the UK, you talk to the solicitors talk to the barristers, and the barristers talk to the judge. So we're in court the first day of trial, and Gene Stapp is on the stand. And he's giving his testimony. This is terrible. They're a bunch of crooks. Mediali is a crook. Commodore screwed me. They owe us money. You can't do business like this. It's a crying shame. For 4 hours. Then our barrister gets on the stand and says, do you recognize this document, which was a contract? He said, yes. Is this your signature at the back? Yes. Did you read it before you signed it? Well, no. I relied on my general counsel. Okay. Next day, general counsel gets on the stand. It's terrible. Commodore's a bunch of crooks. It's awful, etc., etc., etc. My barrister comes up and says, do you recognize this document? Yes. And this is a document you gave your president to sign? Yes. Did you read it before he signed it? Well, no, I was working on our annual report and I delegated it to the finance people. They sorted it all out. Okay, thank you very much. We had the finance guy, the one that threatened that I would never work again in the industry. He was up next, day 3. Do you recognize this document? No. What do you mean, no? This isn't the document I negotiated with Commodore. But it's the document your president signed. Yes. Well, what happened? Well, I went on vacation for 2 weeks, and when I came back, it was different. Then they got Commodore General Counsel on the stand. And one of SCI's theories was, because we were trying to buy Commodore at the time, the General Counsel was in on our team to buy it, and this was a scam by Commodore to protect assets so we could buy it cheaper, which wasn't actually true, because even though he was a friend, he wasn't in our team in the UK trying to buy the assets of Commodore. So their first question was, you're part of the team that's trying to buy Commodore? And he said, no. So Thursday lunchtime, SCI's barrister came to our barrister and says, what's it going to take to get out of this suit? Now, what we actually settled for was, what I said was, now SCI is a good company, I've done nothing wrong, they've done nothing wrong, they got screwed by the agreement, understand that, I'd like to use them as a potential supplier to buy machines, just pay us our legal costs and we'll call it quits. So that's how we closed that. What else? The auction. Now that was a fateful day. It's a day I will never forget because that morning the bomb went off in Oklahoma City. So I was sitting in New York watching the news, horrified as everybody else was. We go down to the courtroom and we had a $15 million war chest. at our disposal to bid for the assets, because we thought they would go for about 6 or 7 million. That's what we were guessing. And we'd lined up a Chinese company to do the manufacturing. We'd been negotiating for about 18 months with them as suppliers. So we all turned up into the lawyer's office in New York, and we knew ESCOM were going to be there. We talked a little bit to ESCOM. We were surprised when Dell showed up, and Gateway showed up, and a couple of other independent people showed up, and we were there. So we sat and talked to Dell, we sat and talked to Gateway, and then with about 50 minutes to go to the auction, our Chinese partners walked in and went and sat down with the ESCOM people. We went, oh. It was clear what had happened. So now we have no manufacturing source guaranteed. We would need to scramble to get that. Dell put in a conditional bid, which a liquidator didn't like. Gateway put in a conditional bid. ESCOM put in a much less conditional bid for 14 million. We only had 15 as our maximum and no manufacturing. So we had nowhere to go, which is why we lost it. Now, a couple of months later, I get a call from Manfred Schmidt, because Commodore International was different from Commodore UK, because Commodore UK was owned through the Netherlands Antilles, so we had a Dutch liquidator who was independent of the Bahamian liquidator with Commodore International's assets. And because we had been careful of trading insolvently for the previous 18 months, we hadn't paid out all the money to Commodore headquarters that everybody else had and had nothing left. So we still had our money. And our belief was, if we could stay afloat long enough for ESCOM or whoever to resume manufacturing, we would keep the brand alive, because we have a 4 million unit installed base in the UK. So we were desperate, trying to keep the brand alive, trying to service the base, trying to get whatever inventory we could flowing through the UK, keeping the magazines online, keeping everybody going till it got reborn. So Manfred Schmidt flew me out to Germany and said, I'm interested in buying Commodore UK. I said, that's great, it's a great asset, it's the biggest installed base. He said, I want you to run it. And I'd had a chance to look at their business plans, and they made no sense to me. So I said, thank you very much, I've had a great 5 years at Commodore, I don't want to do that. So then he said, you've got 30 people in the UK, right? I said, yes, that's right. How can you possibly go home and sleep knowing that if you don't agree to this, you put them all out of work? So I said, thank you for helping me make my mind up. I don't want to work for bullies. I think we're done. So I left. And he lasted, what, 11 months? Before they went down. So there's some interesting people in Commodore. Now there's lots more stories, most of which I can't tell on camera, but I'm happy to take any questions.
What happened to Canada's portion?
Canada was under international, so they got bled dry like everybody else and went down.
You said there was a 4 million user base in the UK.
Yes.
So I always thought, you get to think that Germany was the big resource.
Germany was second.
Where was the USA in comparison?
Very small in terms of Amiga. The PET was good in the US. Yeah.
So, any stories about the CD32 and its launch?
So we had a UK comedian called Chris Evans come and do the CD32 launch. And the biggest problem with the CD32 was nobody knew what it was. So it's, how do you position it? How do you sell it? How do you create brand for a totally different product that nobody's ever seen before and nobody understands? And how much does it cost to establish that market? So Philips were in it slightly ahead of us with the CD Interactive, and we were second. So the best thing about the CD32 campaign was in the UK, and I don't know whether it happened over here, Sega had an advertising campaign which said, to be this good will take ages, and then they switched the ages round so it says Sega. So we got a call from our advertising agency the month before Christmas that said, we have a 40-foot billboard outside the Sega headquarters which has just come up for a month. Would you like to take it? We've got an idea for an advert. So we put an advert on there, and I've got a copy in my bag I can show you, that says, to be this good will take Sega ages.
Who did Commodore in the UK see as competitors in the terms of computers? The Apples, the Ataris, the other Sinclairs. Were there big competitors that you guys kind of went up against that you felt were from?
Well, in Europe, the focus was twofold on the 386, 486 PC market as standard business PCs, some of which were used in the home, and then the games market, because Amiga was clearly positioned at the games market. Most of the Amiga sales we did were within Christmas bundles with the software, and that was where 80% of the Amiga sales were.
And Amiga was the dominant player.
Amiga was the dominant player, yes. Amiga, Sega, Nintendo. And at that time in the mid-90s, Nintendo were in between greatness, so the Xbox hadn't come out yet, and they were still on their older machines.
What was the situation with Commodore in America? I had heard that they had a lawsuit here and that Commodore wasn't able to sell machines directly, and that they were doing all sorts of funny things like importing machines in through Canada, and I don't know if you heard about that or saw it all.
Yeah, that was Tramiel and Atari. So Commodore and Atari were at war for years over here, and they both brought in machines against the embargo, and then they eventually settled that in '93, I believe. Okay.
Any questions? Let's turn the camera off. That's
Oh, thank you again for your hospitality.
Thank you, Colin. Well, as always, the AmiWest Banquet has turned out to be other than we expected. And it's always better, and we can't engineer it. You know, we get inquiries from people about, well, who's going to be the banquet speaker? What are you going to do? You know, what's going to happen? And we always tell people we can never predict it. There's just no way to do that. So when you talk to your people that you know, and invite them to come to AmiWest, you can just, this is really creative stuff. Nobody really knows it's going to happen. And you can come and get surprised along with the rest of us. So thank you very much, Andy and Colin, for enriching our evening and giving us not only an inside look at a musician's life, which is completely rare, but also just as rare, inside look at the corporate life as well. So we really appreciate that. We also have some cookies for dessert right there next to the coffee in the corner. So I'll leave you to dessert. Thank you for coming and participating, and we'll have a swap meet, first time ever, in this room tomorrow morning, 9 a.m., 9 to 10. So we're not quite sure how this is going to work, but you the people who have things to swap and you want to meet to do it, there's your opportunity. And our show floor opens at 10 o'clock. So have a good night. I'm sure that it'll probably extend into the morning as usual. And we will see you tomorrow. Thanks again to our guests. Oh my gosh. Wow.
Did you see?
Did you see Tony was online?
He texted me. I told him which channel to go to.
Come on!
So,
How
why
on
am I
great.
so-
Push
yeah.
the space bar.
Oh.
No one? Okay. So
That's why. So this comes up, and that goes up, and everything goes
So
up.
good?
Yes, we are good.
Okay, no more button pushing?
No more button pushing. Get in front of the camera
What?
so you can take a bow. Where's your dad?
I don't know.
I think he's going after some cookies. So we had a guest operator on our on the video toaster this evening, running transitions. None other than the dynamic and exciting Samantha Brantley.
Hi.
So as you see, this show is for the young and the old. So a big round of applause for Samantha,
I pressed the space bar.
who was doing our toaster operation. Well, this concludes the stream for this evening. So we are going to go do things like hang out and drink, which is why you should come if you're not here. Great presentation. Thanks also to Alex over here for helping me get this stuff set up and get it running. Thanks to everyone who's still online. I know it's late in other parts of the world. It's getting late here too. I think we had about 200 people. It's hard to tell. Between 150 and 200 people on the streams this morning. Tomorrow morning we're going to start with a presentation by, I think, Epsilon. You can probably check the schedule and correct me. Who's going to be showing Amiga OS 4 on UAE, which is pretty cool stuff. So anyway, are you playing with more white? Very good. Anyway, oh no. So I'm going to sign off. It's been a great day. I think we had a lot of stability. I think our quality has been through the roof. Feel free to leave messages on amigaworld.net, amiga.org, or Amigans, Morph Zone, if you want to say thank you to all of us who get this done with a lot of work. And thanks to AmiWest. So have a good night.